Yes, of course. It's a battle. This is what the Bhagavad Gita was symbolizing long ago, that we would be in such a battle. And the question is, are we on the side of God or on the side of the ego, which is, at the end of Kali Yuga, somewhat demonic in its tendency both to be intimidated and to be corruptible and to be biased in favor of its own predispositions of loyalty that are forms of partial love rather than total unconditional love. And so the love of the ego, because it's for one person or one family or one religious group or one country, and everyone else is demonized, it creates that continual mutual demonization, which is the essence of the demonic tendency. So, you can't divide the world that way into the good guys and the bad guys. And in the same way, the sanskaras are going to arise that will create disharmony between your ego and your soul, because the ego is always going to be involved in some internal conflict that it will project as an external conflict, because the feeling of conflict between ego and superego is so unbearable that it wants to get one or the other of those figures externalized, so you can blame that one for your problems and get away from it, because you can't run away from it as long as it's internal. But you discover that you are haunted by it, and you may have gotten away from one projection of a bad object or a punishing superego, but you will soon get captured by another one. And so these sanskaras cannot be defeated at the level of the ego itself, because it's a participant within this dual game between ego, superego types of internal voices and forces. So the only way, because all of your sanskaras, all the nigredo, all the darkest levels of the ego have to come up at the end if you're going to purify your soul of your ego. All of it has to be revealed to you from the subconscious, all the horror of the fantasies of the subconscious, before you can attune to the superconscious. So indeed, the sanskaras coming up are a good thing. They're a blessing. Don't be upset about that. But what you must do is to recognize it for what it is, see the whole pattern, and disidentify from it completely. The awareness that you are as a soul does not think. There is an intuitive knowing. It functions at the vijnana level. In other words, it doesn't have to figure things out. It knows. But at the ego level, there's mental chatter, trying to figure it out and having theories about it. But the only knowledge will come at that level of the soul when you don't buy into any of the ego's thought forms. And only then will you be free of the illusionary agency of the ego that wants to act against its apparent enemy, or to support its cause or its belief system. You will not escape that delusion until you're at the level where you see that this internal duality that projects an external one is completely false and is alien to who you are. And then it will be burned in the fire of truth and dissolved. But let it all come up, but don't identify with anything that does arise. And it's through non-identification with all the thoughts that arise, including the good ones that you think are thoughts of compassion or whatever. Don't identify with any of it. And then you will find freedom from it and liberation.